Hi, welcome to our channel. For today's video, we will recap a sci-fi action film called Repo Men from the year 2010. The movie is set in the near future when artificial organs can be bought on credit. It revolves around a man who struggles to make the payments on a heart he has purchased. He is on the run from agents who wanted to take back the unpaid organs. Have you seen this movie yet? If not, grab some popcorn and enjoy. In the future, medical technology has advanced to the point where people can buy artificial organs to extend their lives. But if they are late on payments, an organization known as the Union sends agents to repossess the organs. Remy is one of the best agents in the business. As his target shows up, Remy doesn't think twice about disrupting his good time with the woman and informs her that he is from the Union before using a special taser gun to knock her out. She tries to defend herself too, however. Remy simply knocks the woman unconscious. In order to collect his artiforgs, he cuts the man apart with his tools, washes it, and places it in a separate sealed bag. The following morning, he does regular parent duties to his wife Carol and takes his son Peter to school, then goes straight to collect the artiforg from clients. When he gets to the Union headquarters, he runs into a worker dressed like a gigantic long and pauses at a coffee table, making himself noticed by all the prospective customers who might need his help. He watches while his boss, Frank Mercer, assists one of the salesmen in making a perfect speech to persuade a family to sign the paperwork before heading to their break room. He finds Raymond Pearl there, who is telling him that he is on probation for viciously hitting a woman in the tube. Frank abruptly ends their conversation, warning Remy not to spend too much time on the main level since he might frighten the customers. He leads him into another room where he scans every artiforg he's gathered, and Jake Fravold, Remy's best friend, joins them. After they went to battle and engaged in combat together, he stopped bullying him at school. They took a position at the Union after the war as it fit their skill set perfectly, and the recruiter assured them they were safeguarding the healthcare system. Jake offers Remy to join him for some drinks. Remy accepts, but not before stopping by his wife's office. Before he goes, they jokingly taunt each other, and Carol chastises him for not asking to be moved to sales. While driving, Jake confides in Remy that he believes Carol is attempting to manipulate him and that they will always be Repo Men, but Remy respects his wife's desires. Using their specialized scanners, they identify a passing civilian as having an artiforg, and they threaten him with consequences if he doesn't pay for it. They merely laugh as the terrified man flees. After arriving at the bar, they have a few beers and talk about the prospect of having to repo someone they know. All the while Remy is observing Beth, the bar singer, intently. When he gets back to his house a few hours later, he plays some T-Bone music and approaches his wife for night fun, but Carol rejects him. Remy decides to check on his son instead and talk to him about his school day. After a few days, as Remy is grilling out in his garden with friends, Jake approaches him and asks for a favor. He needs to give his customer a ride. Jake offers Remy half of the double commission he will receive from it, which helps him to agree to the request even if he initially opposes it. Right there on the street, Jake rips apart the passenger in the taxi that has stopped in front of the home. Carol and Peter see him when they go inside. Carol is upset that his husband has permitted this, and before they leave with their son, she advises him to make a decision between his family and his career. Jake hears Remy say he needs to discuss it with Frank. Later on in the evening, Remy and Jake walk the streets and talk about the new M5 neural net, a technological advancement that allows anyone with brain damage to have an endless dream. A nest, or what they refer to as a haven for hundreds of clients who have fallen behind on payments and are trying to flee the country, is discovered by Jake's scanner. Once they have taken out all of their weapons from the car trunk, they enter and begin pursuing as many people as they can. They are easily defeated at first, but eventually, they begin to resist. Remy gets into a hand-to-hand battle with one of the clients, and Jake has to deal with them by hitting them or using a shock baton. He uses a knife to stab each of his opponents before searching for Jake, who is being overcome by a larger man. After knocking the man out, Remy gets into a fight with Jake because Jake believes Remy doesn't need his help. A few hours later, the two pair return to Frank's office with all the loot, including 2 scanners that they employ to prevent the Repo Men scanners from detecting them. After putting things away, Frank offers for them to take on the role of full-time raid captains, which Remy declines. Frank wants to be transferred to the sales department when Jake interrupts and informs him that things are okay the way they are. Once work is done, Jake tells Remy that following the rules is crucial and should be done with enforcement. After dropping Jake off at his apartment, he heads to take care of Jimmy T-Bone, a musician he has always liked, for what he hopes to be his final repo job. When he tells T-Bone that he's a fan, T-Bone wants him to help him finish the song before the recording. He discovers T-Bone in his home, working on some music and taking a red powder. Remy agrees and says he'll take the recording to the record label after they're through. Later, Remy requests that he lie down on the ground so that he can extract his heart. Remy needs to use his defib unit to stop it first, but as soon as he places the paddles on T-Bone's chest, the equipment malfunctions and electrocutes him, causing him to lose consciousness for the third time in his life. A few days later, he wakes in a hospital bed alongside Jake and Frank. Carol was also present, but she departed before Remy had a chance to see her. The most significant news is delivered after they inform him that the malfunctioning shock unit is to blame. Remy's heart has been replaced with an artificial one. Remy tells them he doesn't want the artiforg and gets out of bed, leaving the room. Frank insults him by dropping his salesman pitch. After that, he can barely get a few steps before his body gives out and he collapses on the ground, realizing he must accept the artificial transplantation. Upon being discharged from the hospital, his first instinct is to head home, only to find that his wife changed the lock on the door. When he rings the bell, Carol answers, hands him his luggage, and tells him that when he took the final work, he put his career before his family. Remy stays at Jake's place, where he is offered beverages and the chance to hang out with some girls, but he would rather relax. A few days later, he returns to work, and his co-workers throw a tiny welcome party for him. They even hired a beautiful woman to dance for him. He then decides he's ready and takes on a case once more to go to work. When the client tries to protect himself, he chokes by him. But all this work causes him to become extremely exhausted. With trembling hands, he tries to remove the artiforg, but finds he is unable to do so. A few hours later, he goes out with his friend to a bar and pretends that he is done with work, but after telling his story, he can't get the client's family out of his head. He exits the bar early distraught. As this is his only opportunity to see his son and wife, he waits at their front door the following day. He hugs Peter and attempts to talk to her, but all she says is that he's overdue on his heart payments and gives him an envelope. Jake discovers this later and chastises Remy for lying, noting that he needs time to recover. He also informs Remy that they will work together once more when he is well. Remy makes an unsuccessful attempt at a sales role since he can't lie to the clients and has grown to feel sympathy for them. His direct honesty doesn't work well in a sales setting. He also tries his hand at horse betting in an attempt to make some additional cash, but he fails miserably. Remy is taken to a nest by Jake, who even tasked a few individuals for him when the last notification comes in the mail, but Remy is still unable to function. Furious, Jake tells him not to return until he breaks out of his depression and has sufficient artiforg to pay off his obligation. The man who was tossed wakes up, and Remy can't bring himself to do it again, so he beats him till he passes out a fourth time. A while later, he awakens to the sound of the song he heard in the pub. After seeing that Beth appears really ill, he offers to bring her to a motel and keep an eye on her while her body undergoes detoxification. He finds she has numerous artiforg, all of which need to be retrieved. Beth strikes Remy for discovering it her when she eventually wakes up. With this discovery, Beth tells him they can no longer be friends. But Remy says that it might not be, insinuating that he is still on her side. In an attempt to clean his and Beth's names, Remy breaks into the Union building. However, he only succeeds in removing one of her many organs before Jake discovers him. Jake is furious about him, but lets him go. To bid Peter farewell, he breaks into his former home next door. After informing Beth they must depart, he heads back to the motel. After setting fire to their vehicle, they drive to the deserted edges of the city and take refuge in an ancient, deserted structure. Frank tries to submit Jake Remy's case to the Union in the meantime, but he and the other Repo Men decline. Over the next few days, Remy and Beth use salvage materials to construct a modest house inside the abandoned building. They share a kiss and indulge in each other, and she reveals to him everything about her artiforg. A typewriter that Beth discovered in the trash is then given to Remy. He uses it to write his story. After a few days, Beth uses her artiforg ears to hear something outdoors, but Remy isn't able to hear anything. She puts headphones on her head and demonstrates him. It doesn't take long for Raymond, who has taken Remy's case, to enter the building and catch him. In an attempt to elude discovery, the couple moves their belongings to a different room with a large hole in the floor and covers it with the sheets. When Raymond walks into the room, Beth hides behind the door while Remy pretends to be writing, expressing disappointment that Remy is so simple to catch. He steps further inside after drawing his weapon, but because of the unsteady floor now, Beth trips and falls while approaching him. Remy improvises and assassinates Raymond by slamming the typewriter on his head. Remy brings Beth back to the city to collect supplies after robbing Raymond of his car, but Beth demonstrates to him that she can mend her own knee with some random equipment she's discovered. Upon arriving in the Union's parking lot, Remy spots the man dressed in the long costume and takes it from him so he can enter discreetly. He visits Frank at work, giving him a few punches before threatening to use the taser he stole from Raymond. In addition, he offers him a fragment of flesh bearing Raymond's tattoo, threatening to harm anyone who tries to capture him. When Remy requests to be removed from the system, Frank informs him that after Remy's initial effort, the system has changed and that accounts can now only be cleared by bringing the organ to the union's central office. Frank tries to negotiate a deal, but Remy knocks him out, takes the scanning jammers, and then heads back to Beth to inform her that they're leaving. Frank gives Jake the order to find Remy. Later, at the airport, Remy and Beth use the jammers to get past the security checks, but they are still removed when a fellow traveler sees that Beth's leg is bleeding. On their way out, Remy tosses the jamming devices in the garbage. Two repo guys show up at the office and scan Remy once more. However, they receive an alert. The couple moves fast and engages in combat with all of the guards. Once all enemies have been defeated, they exit the office and encounter Jake, who is unable to do anything behind a security panel. Thus, Beth is picked up by Remy and led outside the premises. Once again, the couple gets back in the car and go to an abandoned building in the city's slums, where they run with Asbury, a drug dealer of organs who Beth used to date. Following his sharing of red powder with Beth and his disagreement with Remy on the morality of their professions, he tells them he is no longer able to assist Beth and that they should go see Alva. They find out there are two Alvas when they go to have the surgery done. A young woman specializes in anesthesia, while a small child performs the actual surgery. Remy worries about Alva's age and abilities, but little Alva shows that she is an expert at her work. When they return to Asbury's apartment after Beth wakes up, they discover he has been repoed. At that point, Jake shows up and attempts to get Remy to accompany him back, but Remy declines, claiming that the accident has changed him forever. Jake acknowledges that he set up the defibrillator so Remy would get unconscious and not be able to transfer to sales, and that it wasn't a true accident. The two men engage in hand-to-hand combat, and although it initially appears as though they are on an equal footing, Jake soon has the upper hand and knocks Remy through a wall. He flings Remy around till he's left on a metal bridge. Remy yells and grabs a knife to stab Jake in the thigh before Jake knocks him unconscious. Remy is awakened by Beth, who subdued Jake using a taser. He tells her they have to quickly run, or else the Repo Men will catch them. Many people get shot during the raid, and Rhodesia, the head of an underground residence, saves them when they run into a dead end and pulls them into a secret chamber. She gets alarmed when she sees Remy with his tattoo, but he wins her over by revealing the scar on his chest. Remy can't sleep due to nightmares, so he goes outside to assess the damage and discovers that Alva's body is among the many fallen bodies within the building. The following day, he informs Beth that there is no way out for anyone, regardless of where they hide, and that his goal is to complete this by traveling to headquarters and erasing every record. After a few hours, they see Carol and Peter on the train. Remy gives Peter his manuscript and instructs the kid to find him in Puna del Este if he wants to see him. Remy and Beth wait for Frank in his car, tase him, and then take off with his car, which they use to get back to the union's main office. After firing at the security camera, Remy uses Frank's eye to unlock the door. They quickly immobilize all the guards and get inside. From there, they discover a lab occupied by scientists working on artiforks. The couple is ignored by the majority of them, but one gets up and walks out through a door. When Remy tries to speak with him, the guards show up and open fire indiscriminately. Remy and Beth escape by the same door that the other guy used, and they discover that the union's database is guarded by repo guys and security personnel in a hallway. Remy shoots the security guards with his gun, drops it to get his knives, and engages in hand-to-hand combat with the Repo Men. Meanwhile, Beth defends herself with a flaming axe. He dispatches most of them with ease, but when he finds himself encircled by them on the ground, he begs Beth to pass him the hacksaw so he may use it to finish off the remaining ones. They then unlock the database room door using Beth's prosthetic eye and close it in time to let Frank and Jake enter. They find that the only interface available to them on the server is an organ scanner, leaving them with little choice except to begin dissecting themselves and scanning their own bodies from the inside out. They begin the surgery by applying part of the red powder to Remy's heart, and once his wound has been sealed, they then apply the red powder to each of Beth's prostheses. Remy is already examining Beth's remaining organs when Jake and Frank use an artifork from one of the deceased Repo Men to get inside. After using his knife to kill Frank, he gives Remy a syringe to help her revive Beth. When the computer asks to scan the artiforks, Jake places 2 grenades inside and blows up the entire database. All of the clients are now free. The movie ends as Remy relishes his newfound freedom with Beth and Jake. while his written words come to life in a published book titled The Repossession Mambo. During a conversation with Jake, Remy witnesses Jake mysteriously vanish, leaving behind Remy's book. Soon after, the beach scene momentarily distorts before returning to normal, revealing Remy's existence in a coma due to severe brain damage inflicted by Jake. In a surprising twist, Jake has settled Remy's heart debt and connected his mind to a neural network, allowing him to reside in a simulated reality. Beth remains unconscious, and Jake pledges to care for her, bidding a heartfelt farewell to Remy. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoy this movie. See you in our next video.